Hello everyone, welcome back to Believers Science Academy, Bengaluru. This is the daily news analysis. Today, that is 18th August 2025, we are going to discuss some important articles from prelims, mains and interview perspective. So the first article, it is actually from the Saturday news analysis, which since we didn't do the analysis on Saturday, I thought I will discuss this issue because it is very important in the current geopolitical context of the world. That is USA Russia Alaska Summit fallout and the strategic concerns. In UPSC syllabus, it is significant from GS to international relations. Why is it in news? It is in news because US President Donald Trump rated his summit with Russian Vladimir Putin 10 out of 10, describing it as warm and productive. So you know Donald Trump, he tweeted out saying that the meeting with Putin was 10 out of 10. It was very warm and productive. We decided on so many things, but it was not the reality. The Alaska summit focused on exploring a way forward in the Ukraine war, carrying implications for global security, NATO, and secondary powers like India. See how they are saying secondary powers like India, because recently in the India-USA relations, Trump had put almost 20%, 25% tariff hike on India, which it was later converted to 50% as well. However, it is on hold at the moment, but this shows that the issue with India and USA is an ongoing one. So here they also discussed about India and USA relations as well. So first, the key highlights of the summit: productive but not conclusive. That is, Trump called talks extremely productive. No final deal was there, but discussions on a possible US, Ukraine, Russia trilateral meeting. Next, nuclear and geopolitical undertones. Both leaders stressed the importance of relations as top two nuclear powers. Emphasis on reducing hostilities and exploring new peace settlement between the countries. Next, Trump's position on Ukraine. Asserted war wouldn't have occurred if he was still in power. You know about Trump. Trump, for everything, anything around the world happens because of Trump. Okay, so Trump was like, because of me, India and Pakistan stopped the war. Because of me, US and like Russia and Ukraine are going to war. If I was there, the war would have not happened. So that is the tone that Trump used in yesterday's meeting. He said that he suggested Zelensky should make a deal with Russia, moving from ceasefire to comprehensive peace plan. And Putin's response was, echoed Trump's claim that war would have been avoided, signaled readiness for dialogue, and highlighted cooperation in high technology, Arctic, and outer space. So you can see the talks were very peaceful and very productive, but however, there was no final deal. Neither there was a nuclear deal, or sorry, neither there was a trade deal between USA and Russia, neither was a deal between USA, Ukraine, or Russia. So the war is still going on. Though the talks are good, but it doesn't have any conclusive evidence. Next is India's strategic dilemma: trade and tariff pressure. That is, US tariffs up to 25% on Indian exports and potential 500% for aiding Moscow directly affects Indian trade. Refined petroleum exports from Russia is under scrutiny at the moment. Trump claimed Russia lost India as an oil client through refineries deny impact. Though the refineries deny such impact, because India is still a client of Russia and India accounts for 32% of oil imports from Russia. Okay, and China accounts for 50% of oil imports from Russia. That is other things. China is not going to budge to any demand or anything that US has to say. However, India has to heed to the request of USA, because India is a strategic partner with USA. Next is energy security versus geopolitics. Since 2022, Russia supplies 35 to 40% of India's crude oil imports. Cheap Russian crude ensures energy security but exposes India to Western criticism and tariff risks, as recently highlighted by Trump tariff hike plus criticism from NATO president. Okay, so India faces a choice now, that is cheap energy versus export competitiveness. We have to wait and see what India is going to do. So, strategic significance of this Alaska summit. First, for India, it illustrates vulnerability of the middle powers to great power deals. Spotlights India's balancing act with Russia as well as USA. With Russia in energy and defense, with USA and Europe with the trade, technology, and Indo-Pacific. And India's strategic autonomy tested under sanctions pressure, both due to S-400 and now due to crude oil. Next, for global politics, the reaffirms great power centrality in conflict resolution, raises concerns or uncertainty over NATO's Ukraine strategy, suggests possible US-Russia thaw implications for Europe's scrutiny architecture and China's calculus. Next, symbolically boost Putin's legitimacy despite NATO's position. So, despite whatever the criticism that NATO throws towards Putin, this recent Alaska summit reaffirms Putin's legitimacy in Russia, reaffirms Russia's position in Ukraine war as well. So, what should be the way ahead for India? India should tread carefully. How? Diplomatic tightrope. That is, maintain strategic autonomy while engaging both USA and Russia. Diversify energy basket. That is, balance Russian imports with Middle Eastern, US, and renewable sources so that we are not dependent on a single source of energy. In case, even though we are not going to heed to the demand of demand of USA, and we are going to import from Russia, what if because of the war Russia requires more amount of oil for themselves? Then who are going to go for? Okay, that is why we have to have wider basket. If Russia is not able to supply to us, we should have another alternative as well. So India should move towards other countries such as Middle Eastern, USA, or better focus on renewable energy sources. Next is engage proactively with USA and European Union. India should stress its role as stabilizer in Indo-Pacific, seek tariff waivers and exemptions. India should say, you are only thinking about USA, Russia, Ukraine and Indian relations. You should also see what India is doing with respect to Indo-Pacific, how we are countering China, how we are maintaining rule-based order in Indo-Pacific. So you should also see how India is acting as a stabilizer in these cases. So we should also provide waiver to us. We should not hold only accountable to Ukraine war. Okay. Next, strengthen multilateral diplomacy. Push for Ukraine peace through G20, SCO and BRICS forums. So if India is able to balance these things, India would come out in flying colors in this particular issue. Next is about GST reforms from the front page of the Hindu, today's newspaper. GST reforms to benefit poor and middle class. Prime Minister Modi. In the recent, that is Prime Minister Modi, while inaugurating Dwarka Expressway, that is Delhi section and Urban Extension Road 2, announced upcoming GST reforms. The reforms to be implemented before Diwali aim at simplifying the tax structure, reducing the rates, and boosting compliance. So, in syllabus again it comes under GS3, Indian economy, taxation, growth, and fiscal policy. Next, key highlights of the announcement: simplified rate structure, that is existing multiple GST slabs to be streamlined into 5 and 18%, with most items in 28% bracket shifting to 18%. Then a new 40% rate only for sin goods. What are these sin goods? Luxury, harmful items like tobacco, drinks, etc. Consumer-centric approach. According to Prime Minister Modi, the new reforms are designed from consumers' perspective, expected to reduce burden on the poor, middle class, traders, and entrepreneurs. Next, aim is equitable and rational taxation. Next, revenue neutrality and fiscal sustainability. Despite the rate cuts, center expects higher compliance and buoyancy in collections. No long-term revenue loss due to increased formalization and consumption. Though the tax rates are going to be reduced from 28% to 18%, the government expects more tax collection. Why? Though the tax rates are reduced, the tax base is going to be increasing. More number of people will improve their complaints because the tax rate is very low. Next, governance and reform philosophy. Prime Minister Modi said, reform signifies good governance based on the learning from 8 years of GST implementation, and it is positioned as a next generation reforms under the GST. Okay, so we have to wait and see what will be the impacts of this GST. Next, significance for citizens, for poor and middle class, the lower indirect tax burden on daily essentials, which will reduce their out of pocket expenditure and will have more money for consumption. They can spend more on essential goods and they can also spend more on leisure. Next, for entrepreneurs and traders, easier compliance and reduces cost of doing business. Again, it is going to have positive virtuous cycle where there will be more investment, more employment, more economic growth, etc. etc. Next, for the economy, it is going to boost consumption demand because there will be lesser tax burden and there will be more money at the hands of people. Now people are going to spend or expand their or diversify their diets, diversify their spendings. Next, higher compliance and formalization, which talks about revenue buoyancy. Next, simplification may attract investment and entrepreneurship. Okay, so this is the significance of, and again, for the states, concerns of revenue loss are addressed with centers assurance of sustainability. Okay, we all know due to GST, many of the states, not many of the states, most of the states lost their taxation powers with respect to state taxes, state VATs and custom duties, etc., which were initially the powers of state government were given away under the GST. So they were demanding for some sort of compensation for revenue loss. So there was GST compensation which was provided to each state. Now the center is saying that in the long term it is going to lead to sustainability. Cooperative federalism is needed for the rollout. There has to be cooperation between the main pillars of federalism, that is states and the center. Challenges ahead, that is securing state cooperation before the Diwali deadline, monitoring whether rate rationalization truly leads to compliance gains or not, ensuring inflation control despite the tax shifts on the sin goods. So very good move in the considering the need for the consumption based demand in India. However, these are the issues that has to be addressed. Next, there was an important or interesting article in the science section of the Hindu, which is biodiversity everywhere is ordered by a common hidden pattern. We will see what is this common hidden pattern. UPSC GS3, environment, ecology, biodiversity, climate change. That is the syllabus, and the context is a recent study which was published in Nature Ecology Evolution of the July edition reveals that biodiversity across the globe follows a universal onion-like pattern. What is this onion-like pattern? It is there is dense unique biodiversity at the core and grading outward into porous mixed margins. Okay, if this is a universe like any national park or this is the habitat, and if this is the core, this is a core which is very dense with large number of biodiversity, and this is so this goes on grading outward. It looks like onion. That is initially at the core there is higher density of the biodiversity. As we go out from these core to the outer rings, then the density of this biodiversity goes on decreasing. So this is what is followed in national parks as well. So the finding challenges the earlier assumptions that species distribution inside biogeographical regions was entirely idiosyncratic. Okay, so we'll discuss what is the idiosyncratic and what is the important findings of the study. First is universal core to transition rule. The world can be split into 7 repeating biogeographical sectors found across continents and taxa. The biodiversity layers are core hotspots. This is at the center, which will be at the center, which is dominated by large number of species richness, high endemism, and almost no foreign species. And then there is the inner layers. In these inner layers, species rich but more widespread species. Okay, Instead of endemic species, the species will be widespread. These can be found in both core and outside regions as well. Then there are middle layers. In these middle layers, these are the middle layers. What happens in middle layers? There is moderate richness, mix of characteristic and non-characteristic species. Okay, that is, these species can be found throughout the national park or throughout the biogeographic region. In this region as well, outside region as well, it can be found in everywhere. And finally, there is a transition zone. This transition zone, this will be the transition zone. Transition zone between other biogeographic zones as well. If this is the one biogeographic zone, there will be another biogeographic zone where the onion rings goes on like this, and this final layer goes in transition between these two biogeographic zones. These transition zones are species poor, dominated by wide-ranging generalists. Okay, generalists in the sense this can be found anywhere. Okay, so these can be found in this particular transition zone or in the particular neighboring zone as well. So this is how biogeography is. This is how biodiversity is patterned throughout the world. Okay. Next, environmental filters. That is, in 98% of the cases, local temperature and rainfall predicted sector placement implies that only species adapted to specific conditions can survive in each layer. Okay, so how environmental filters, that is the temperature and rainfall, have impact on sector placement. Next is subset structure. That is, outer layers are usually subsets of inner species rather than completely different species. Outward movement means fewer specialists, not new specialists. Okay. Next, methodology was the data set collected 30,000 plus species, both birds, mammals, reptiles, dragonflies, etc. etc. The sources were IUCN Red List, BirdLife International, and US Forest Inventories. And the analytical tool was InfoMap network analysis to group cells by co-occurrence. So this is a new findings. Many people argue that this was known from the beginning itself. However, with this new findings, these are the significance. That is, for science, it provides large-scale data-backed universal rule in biogeography. Shows how biodiversity spreads outward from the core hotspots shaped by climate and geography. It talks about the impact of climate and geography in maintaining core and transition zones. Next, for conservation, offers a lens to prioritize conservation. That is, protection should focus on protecting the core zones for maximum impact. Helps predict how climate change, such as temperature and rainfall, could disrupt biodiversity layers. Next, for India, particularly relevant to the Himalayas, which are biodiversity rich but climate sensitive. Next, it also highlights the importance of looking beyond traditional protected areas. Next, safeguarding altitudinal zones, key habitats, and natural corridors. So, this is why it becomes very important. Next, useful for policy and adaptation planning under India's National Biodiversity Action Plan. Okay, so this is what the significance of these new studies are. However, there are certain limitations and criticisms of this finding as well. That is, there were certain gaps in data coverage. For example, dragonflies, Eurasia, trees, and North America and tropical regions like parts of India were underrepresented. Next, regional specific research needed to complement global findings as well. This was not happening with respect to this particular study. Despite that, study and the findings are very significant moving forward with respect to conservation of biodiversity. Next is a conservation manual drafted by ordinary citizen. An editorial from the Hindu, important in GS1 and GS2. The context is, in his Independence Day address, PM Modi urged citizens to preserve the memory of freedom fighters and the monuments. Current heritage conservation in India largely is guided by John Marshall's Conservation Manual and ESA's methods, which is seen as outdated, piecemeal, and insufficient. So the author calls for new citizen inclusive conservation manual that draws from diverse disciplines and reflects India's complex heritage. and it should not be based on the colonial legacy. Next, so what are the issues with current conservation manual? It is of colonial legacy. That is, conservation is rooted in colonial era cataloging and repair techniques. Marshall's approach was extensive repair, turning monuments into gardens. Present deficiencies are approximately 3,600 ASI protected monuments, of which many are deteriorating. And 2014 conservation policy was irregularly implemented and increasing reliance on corporate adoption schemes. These are the issues. So the author proposes new approach. What is this new approach? New approach tries to bring lessons from Gandhi's Sarvodaya. That is, conservation should improve both monuments and communities around them as well. Just focusing on the monuments is not going to help the cause. We should also focus on improving the communities around these conservation areas. Interpretive materials should highlight craftsmanship, resilience, and builders' sophistication. Next, interdisciplinary input. So, the conservation should not be only based on the monuments conservation, but it also take lessons from multidisciplines, such as translators, which remind us that meaning shifts over the time. That is, conservation should acknowledge historical distance and make interventions transparent. Wildlife biologists stress ecosystems, link monuments with water bodies, forests, settlements rather than isolating them. Next, mycologists that teach the value of small overlooked entities, conserve foreign forgotten systems, walls, cenotaphs, dovecotes that can aid groundwater recharge and local economies and habitats. Okay, so this has to be seen from the perspective of their use as well. Okay, these are ancient techniques which are used for conserving water. So this can be followed in current days as well. Next, economist, that is, value lies in function, scarcity, and adaptive reuse. So focus on restoring natural ventilation in Havelis, transform submerged temple into research labs for underwater archaeology. Okay, very important, significant recommendations were provided by this particular author. Citizen involvement. So conservation must be participatory and not top down. Citizens should learn to read the language of the stones. Use monuments as mirrors to confront prejudices. Treat India as monument without walls, preserving culture as a living, evolving entity. Okay, so this new manual should not only focus on learning the lessons from Gandhiji, multidisciplinary approach, but also have involvement of the citizens, that is participatory in nature. Significance is moves conservation from structural exercise to socio-cultural process. Promotes community-centric and ecosystem-linked conservation. Bridges heritage with contemporary needs, economy, environment, and inclusivity. So very important article. Next is, in Namibia, India shows a new way to engage in Africa. So UPSC GS2, India and Africa relations in international relations. The context is, Prime Minister's recent visit to Namibia in July 2025 was the first Indian PM visit in nearly 3 decades. This outreach marks India's evolving Africa strategy, which is grounded in shared history, cultural resonance, technology, and inclusive partnerships, which is distinct from West conditional aid approach. Okay, because West and Africa do not share the shared history. They were not a part of colonialism, whereas India and Africa share common history between colonialism, common history of Gandhiji, and common history of overcoming this colonialism. So this move focuses on evolving Africa strategy. India's approach was a 3-step logic. First step is about shared historical solidarities. This evokes anti-colonial struggles and solidarity. Examples: New Delhi hosted SWAPO's first diplomatic office. Lieutenant General Diwan Premchand led UN peacekeeping during the Namibia's independence transition. So these are historical solidarities. And then creates image of long-term ally versus episodic Western powers. Next, present-day pragmatic cooperation, that is bilateral trade is about 800 million, which is modest but growing. Africa-wide development partnerships, about 12 billion. Major initiatives are India Namibia Center of Excellence in IT, that is Namibia University of Science and Technology, India Wing, that is Ongwedia Campus, University of Namibia, where $12 million grant was provided to this India Wing. This focuses on capacity building, IT, youth, and digital readiness. Finally, future-oriented knowledge-based ties. Namibia became the first African country to adopt UPI. Significance is export of digital tools, regulatory models, and tech architectures tested in India. Potential to build resilient digital economies in global south. So why is India focusing on Namibia? Strategic advantages of focusing in Namibia. That is, in Namibia there is political stability plus mineral wealth plus tech readiness. Next, it has a shared global south agenda. Both countries strive for reforming international economic governance, equity, and resilience. So there are shared global south agenda as well. Alignment with India's vision of multipolarity and inclusive world order. Both countries strive towards inclusive world order. However, there are certain gaps and challenges as well. That is, symbolism is greater than substance. Whatever be the symbolism, whatever be the soft power, finally what matters more is substance. That is, only two MOUs, that is entrepreneurship and health, and plus Namibia is joining Global Biofuel Alliance and CIDRI. So there is need of more substance. No concrete deals on critical minerals such as uranium and rare earths, despite huge potential for India's clean energy transition. Next, India's implementation credibility questioned. That is, long gaps in engagement, uneven delivery of past commitments. Okay, so there are, despite these opportunities, or despite these gaps, there are opportunities ahead. That is India Africa Forum Summit, which is an upcoming summit, chance to institutionalize ties. Areas for expansion are critical mineral supply chains plus value addition, workforce training and skilling, and tech and digital cooperation. So India has lots of opportunities with respect to health, disaster resilience, and sustainable energy as well. So India should explore all the opportunities and make sure that substance is greater than the symbolism. Okay. Next, few preliminary pointers. A very important news which was trending in Twitter, that is Golden Dome missile defense system of USA. So similar to the Iron Dome of Israel, which protects Israel from drone attacks from neighboring countries or its adversaries, USA is planning to build a Golden Dome missile defense shield. What is it? The context is US President has announced a 175 billion Golden Dome missile shield to protect the country from advanced missile threats. What is Golden Dome? The nature is ground plus space-based integrated missile defense system. Aim is to protect USA from long-range missiles, including those launched from space or intercontinental sources. Design network of hundreds of satellites for detection, tracking, and interception. So next, key features are space-based interceptors, which neutralizes missiles at multiple trajectory stages, advanced tracking technologies based on space-based radars, sensors for real-time missile monitoring. Next, laser weapons, mid-flight destruction using directed energy, and then integration with the existing assets. That is Patriot missile batteries. Third, that is terminal high altitude area defense, Aegis ballistic missile defense, ground-based mid-course defense. All these things will be integrated together along with the satellite and space-based interceptors to provide a virtual dome around USA. Next, strategic significance is enhances USA's homeland security against hypersonic and nuclear threats, especially from that of Russia and China. Marks a shift towards space weaponization, rising debates on militarization of space. Could trigger a new arms race in missile defense technologies. Strengthens US deterrence postures via Russia, China, and North Korea. Next, Sarvottam Yudh Seva Medals, SYSM. Recently, on the eve of 79th Independence Day, the President of India conferred 7 Sarvottam Yudh Seva medals to the leaders of Operation Sindhu. About this medal, it was instituted in 26 July 1980. Purpose is awarded for distinguished service of the most exceptional order during war, conflict, and hostilities. Hierarchy, it is the highest wartime distinguished service decoration, comparable to peacetime Parama Vishishta Seva Medal. In recent news analysis, we discussed about all the different gallantry awards. This is similar to gallantry award, but doesn't come under the 3 gallantry awards that are provided. Next, features are okay. Medal design is circular, 35mm not necessary, and ribbon not necessary. Bar for multiple awards. That subsequent awards, sorry. Okay, not necessary. So eligibility is important. All ranks of Army, Navy, and Air Force are eligible. Includes territorial army, auxiliary and reserve forces, lawfully constituted armed forces. Nursing officers and members of armed forces nursing services are also eligible for this one. And next, posthumous awards are allowed as well. So even after the death, these awards can be provided. So these are some of the important articles which I want to discuss with you today. If you like this video, if you think you gained something out of this video, then please hit the like button, comment on it, and also share your thoughts in the comment box. And if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.